One final time on this tour, India against the West Indies. The third T20 is of little significance in terms of where the series stands and in general with the interest already moving towards Australia for India in a cricketing point of view and the West Indies for Bangladesh. But at the Chepauk, where cricket returns after a while, there's still a little bit of impact that a few West Indies players might want to show. The IPL auction a little while from now, India, like I said, already looking towards Australia, so a few players that might want to have a performance or two that would make the selectors take note. I'm Ronak Kapoor with Phil Simmons and Ajit Agarkar. Good to have you back, Ajit.
Thanks,
little that we can look forward to in terms of the series, but let's be fair, there's a lot of cricket for India to play in this year, so every opportunity for each player counts.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't made too many changes, at least to their batting, or no changes really. So, hopefully it's a competitive game. Hopefully West Indies can play better than they have in the first two games and make life a little bit more difficult for India. So, from India's perspective, they've rested a couple of their key bowlers, so it'll be interesting to see how they go as well.
So much rest for bowlers these days, isn't it, Ajit?
Yeah, I think Bumrah is somebody they need to look after for sure. I mean, not that he's had a lot of cricket in recent times. He's had a break. He didn't play the two tests. Either only played 3 tests in England. So he's had, but going forward, especially coming closer to that World Cup, he's obviously your trump card. So you want to be a little bit watchful with him.
Sometimes does too much rest actually hamper your feel, your momentum as a fast bowler?
It can. In his case, it doesn't seem to at the moment with the kind of form he's shown. Every time he comes back, he obviously, when he's not playing, he's doing all the right things. You don't want him resting too much and missing too much cricket either. It's a balance they'll have to strike at some stage because there's still a lot of cricket to be played before that World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the West Indies go, they're still World T20 champions, Phil Simmons, even though they have half the squad that actually won the tournament in India a few years back. But 2-1 would still leave a slightly better taste than 3-0 to top what's been a reasonably disappointing tour.
2-1 would definitely be a better way to go home. And for them, that will be what they are looking at and making sure that at least today, as Ajit said, there's a performance that makes India work for it or they can beat India. So I think there's a lot for them to play for. I'm just a little bit disappointed in no changes in the team.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We thought we'd get to see a few guys. Shafin Rutherford's been here with the team. They've also got Obed McCoy, though we don't know the entire extent of whether he's fully fit. But Carlos Brathwaite confirmed the exact same team. So there will still be question marks around the opening pair. They put Shimron Hetmeyer up there to chase down a big score in the last T20I at Lucknow. Kieron Pollard, we've done a full article on him and how it's perhaps he's due a big score for the West Indies and also to reinforce his value in T20 cricket to a number of franchise owners around the world. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same team. Nicholas Pooran is someone Phil would like to see at the top of the order. O'Shane Thomas has been the standout with the ball. Right, Phil, little that we can say because you already wanted somebody else to get a go, but just in terms of that team itself, you want Nicholas Pooran batting up, the same thing?
Yeah, I would still want to see him open the batting and maybe Ramdin down at 6 or somewhere 7, somewhere there where he can finish the last 4 or 5 overs, which is he's good at. But other than that, everyone's got something to play for. As you say, there's an auction coming up next month. There's self-pride, there's West Indies pride. It's a lot for them to play for.
This is a question that I'll start with you and then go to Ajit for. I've never understood why teams pick a big squad or a reasonably good squad and even if the series is done, don't give a squad player a game. Poor Shafin Rutherford at this point.
Yeah, I'm disappointed, really disappointed, and I can't understand it because he's one of the exciting young players coming out of the Caribbean now. And you want to give him a chance so he can see what it's like at this level against maybe the best team in the world. And he would at least learn something from that more than he would learn on the bench.
Yeah, and I can have the same conversation for a number of Indian players. At least the West Indies came with just a lean overseas squad, 15 players or so. India had a huge bench and Shreyas Iyer was on that bench. So too was
Mr. Ranji Trophy game as well.
So you weren't very pleased that if you've taken Shreyas Iyer, you've got, Washington Sundar gets a game today.
Yeah, thankfully. I mean, at least a couple of the guys, they rested Bumrah and Kuldeep Chahal comes back in the squad, which is or in the 11, which is good. Yeah, batting it's an interesting one. I mean, Shikhar Dhawan not been in great form, so they'll probably want him to get back into form, giving him a game. Rahul's not had, or he had one decent innings, but not had enough batting in these 2 games. Manish Pandey's virtually had that one game, hasn't batted in the second one. So yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, if someone like a Shreyas Iyer though should have been given an opportunity, because there was a case to either leave Pant or Dinesh Karthik out. I know it's tough because both haven't really had a go. I mean, Rishabh Pant's at least been promoted and had a couple of bats, but it's tough. But then that's why you pick a squad, and especially when the series is done. I mean, how do you know if the player sitting outside is good enough to actually make that squad? I mean, he's part of the squad going to Australia as well, and hasn't had any international cricket for a long time. So, yeah, strange one. I mean, I know it looks a lot easier from here to make those changes, because the guys in the 11 will feel hard done by sometimes to be rested without having enough opportunity. But those are decisions that they have to make.
I mean, just that. Shahbaz Nadeem was picked only for this series, doesn't get a game. I can understand perhaps giving game time to guys who will play in Australia, let alone that he shouldn't have been picked in the first place then, Nadeem. But Shreyas Iyer has now warmed the bench for 2 series on the trot, not got a game. Regardless, you could have still left Shikhar Dhawan out, even if he's not had a great patch. You know what he's about. He's surely going to play the first game in
even
Australia.
someone like a Dinesh Karthik, okay, he's in T20 cricket, he's doing really well for you at that number 5 or 6. So you know what you're going to get from him. Pandey, KL Rahul, I can understand. Rishabh Pant was left out already in the one days, after the first couple of games. So you want him to play more because he is going forward. He looks like your first option in all 3 formats. So yeah, there was a case to give, like you said, it could be Shikhar Dhawan, it could be Rishabh Pant, Dinesh Karthik, but should have been given an opportunity. It's happened in recent times quite a few times, and here's one more.
Okay, so make what you want of it. There's one side of it that they persist with the same players to try and get them a decent run, but then there's also the other side that there are a few cricketers now that have played no cricket, like Ajit points out. Shreyas Iyer not even playing any domestic cricket for a while. So let's just confirm the 11 for you. There have been some changes because Jasprit Bumrah, Umesh Yadav after one game needs some rest, and Kuldeep Yadav also gets some rest. So Washington Sundar gets a game at his home ground in domestic cricket, and in comes Yuzvendra Chahal too, who's warmed the bench in recent times. Chahal in on what looks like a 3-man spin attack with just Bhuvneshwar Kumar and Khalil Ahmed. The reflection of the dryness that Murali Karthik points out in the Chennai pitch.
Yeah, seems to be. I mean, 3 spinners. Chennai is a decent sized ground as well.
Yeah.
So gives spinners a bit more of a chance with the longer boundaries. Generally does slow down the pitch. Okay, India's bowling first, and not that it matters much in 40 overs, but it is a reflection of what the pitch looks like. I mean, Siddharth Kaul was called as a replacement. I'm not sure why, but clearly what the pitch is likely to. What we are likely to see with the pitch.
And it could be one of those where if the bowler pulls up on the morning of the game, then you have an extra seamer. Just one of those.
Yeah.
Or do you not understand?
You've got to have backup. It could very well be because both Bumrah and Umesh Yadav were rested, so you needed a third guy in the. And also you sometimes don't quite know on the night what your combination is likely to be.
I know Phil's been listening for a while now, but I'll just finish on the Umesh point. Sometimes the selector tells you we're resting you. Can you say I don't want rest as a fast bowler? Because Umesh Yadav, who's played one T20 and left out from the ODIs to halfway, he wouldn't have minded playing this game ahead of.
Yeah, I don't think he would have, but I think he's been playing cricket a fair bit. I mean, he's played the Test as well, so it's okay. With a big Australia tour coming, he's going to be one of your 5 seamers likely to be in the squad. So yeah, I mean, it's just at least they got a chance or an opportunity to play someone like a Washington Sundar.
Now there's a detailed conversation I want to have with Phil Simmons too, because this is all about squads and availability of players and selectors having to make some calls. I'd never want to be a West Indies selector, Phil, with all that's going around. And before I get your comments, let me just remind our viewers of what Dinesh Ramdin said ahead of this game, because the question was obviously asked to him on the availability of the big players, and Ramdin putting out a firm point that no one should be forced to play for your national side ahead of club cricket.
It's difficult at this point in time for us to build a team. When you look at all T20 players, their demand around the world. And to the extent we are suffering in that aspect, some of our senior players didn't turn up for this tour. And that's why we are 2-0 down in a T20. Yeah, I would say disappointing. I mean, T20 champs, and then we played our first game at Eden Gardens. We were expecting to do well. I didn't think we adapted the wicket as well as we should, and we didn't string any partnerships. I think T20, as I said before, is momentum and partnerships, and we didn't do that. I think Kuldeep Yadav, he played a major part in terms of the Test, One Day and T20 series. Guys haven't been able to pick him. I think he was basically one of the threats in the middle overs where we couldn't really push on. Yeah, it's a very challenging and tough sport, especially when you play here in India. Some of the guys had some success, Young Hope and Etimaya. To transfer that from the 50 overs into the T20, they tried their best. It's all about batting some more balls. I think they didn't give themselves enough more chance. I think T20 is a lot balls, 120 balls. You take 10 or 12 balls to get set. I don't think they have done that in this series. It's all about keep backing yourself, having that self-confidence. That's how T20 goes. You lose some, you win some. But I think when you have that momentum, and we didn't have that momentum from probably the first game.
Okay, so just focusing on the first part of Ramdin's answer, again reiterating how the West Indies didn't have their strongest squad here. He also made a line in their press conference that it's all about putting food on the table, so bringing in the practical side that the West Indies players have to consider their financial prospects too when they decide these. Now, Phil, are those statements coming from a senior player in the current West Indies squad, just a fair reflection and of the times and of reality at this point, or would you still like for players currently with the national squad to at least call or say the right things to encourage others to prioritize West Indies cricket over franchise cricket?
I think Dinesh, I don't know what exactly he was trying to say, but from my point of view, I would not beg anyone to play for their country. I agree with him with that. But I know for a fact that these guys have given up a lot to play for their country. And barring the World Cup qualifiers in March,
yes,
and now it's the first time I think that any player has gone the other direction. I know in my time as coach, nobody went the other direction. The choices were the selectors as to who they want to pick. And it will be interesting to hear what was the team that was selected for this before all the absentees. But in what Dinesh is saying, yeah, you can't force people. So you've got to pick the team of players who want to play for you.
Okay.
But in this format, I'm sure that everyone wants to play for their country.
Now, is this the right mid ground to meet at? For now, Phil, Chris Gayle and a number of other players turned down an annual contract, saying they'd rather play on a pro rata basis, on a series by series basis, and therefore announcing that someone like Gayle will be available for the England ODIs next year, just before the World Cup and then the World Cup. So, like you said, earmarking what they believe is a significant contribution for West Indies cricket or a significant series, and at the same time not losing out on the lucrative financial opportunities. Is that a fair current ground to be at where things can build upon?
I don't know if it's fair,
okay,
but I think it's coming from a long way back. I think it's coming from they wanting players to give up lucrative contracts to come home for a camp before a tour. To come up to make sure they play all games in all formats if they want to be selected for that. I don't think that if you play in IPL, you have to come home for a 10 camp before a series because you're playing big set of cricket. So I think it comes from that, and that's where the mistrust of players come from.
Well, I think another view that you often take is you need to make your squad with people who are prioritizing international cricket. You know that as a selector, this could be a hard job to go on to every series and ask 6 or 7 top players whether they'll be available, and then if they say no, build another squad again for a different series, pick differently. Would you like? I know you don't understand that you're not in the dynamic of West Indies cricket. Would you like to see things differently?
Not as black and white as it should be, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But if I was a selector, I would pick guys who are always available for the country. I'd rather build a team from knowing that these guys are always available for me to sort of play for the country first, and then prioritize.
But we have seen the downside of that, haven't we, Ajit? An ordinary-looking West Indies team throughout the year, or an ordinary team perhaps for a certain series, but still maybe for the World Cup, a full-strength West Indies team.
It's a little bit unfair on the guys then who are playing for the rest of the year, isn't it? I mean, and as a selector or as a captain or a coach, how do you then build your squad? I know that there's some senior names or some really good players who are missing from the squad, but yeah, I mean that's the view I have, that you should. It's a tough one because I mean it is the reality. There are some lucrative contracts in the T20 leagues which are there for the taking, and West Indies players, just like a lot of the others, are in huge demand. But I stand for the country
Sure.
in this case. But I would rather know which players you're likely to have available all the time and then develop them and give them that experience to start getting better. That's the way I look at it.
I mean, another way of looking at it from the financial side, if you understand the realities of the players, Phil, is if there is a full strength team, an Indian board would be more attracted to the prospect of a long bilateral ODI series against the West Indies. Similarly, if India is to travel there, if you tell a team like India that it's not going to be a full strength West Indies team, that in some way affects even the monetary value and your prospects of playing top level opposition. Does that make any sense to you that this could very well backfire too?
Yes, it's definitely a hit on your TV rights and your sponsorship and everything like that. And just to go back to one thing, these players have given their all, because I think that a lot of times they've broken contracts to come back home to make themselves available. So I agree with Ajit with the fact that you want to build a team, and every time you have internationals, you want to have the same team for the next 6 or 7 months before World Cup. It's something that West Indies selectors and their board have to understand and sit down and work it out with their players and make sure that these players are available until World Cup, and that's the players they got to go with. I agree with that. I'm sure all the players, if you put that in front of them properly, then they will want to do it.
All right, final word on this. Just the plight of the West Indies fan at this point, who has to pick and choose between what might be maybe a great West Indies performance by their top players, a World Championship win, or a series like this where there's been so little to be interested in or take away from. If you're a West Indies fan right now, Phil Simmons, are you happy knowing that you will probably have a full strength team playing in the World Cup next year?
I won't be happy right now. I think all the fans in the Caribbean want to see all the big players play and us winning. But I think there are a lot of people in the Caribbean who are disappointed in the fact that some players are not available sometimes and not selected other times and things. So I think the people in the Caribbean are frustrated with the whole thing. But definitely they want to see their best team in the field.
Well, if they do want to see their very best, people in the Caribbean look no further than the women's team that started the World T20 at home on a serious bright note, defending a low score against Bangladesh, and they are considered one of the favourites, the defending champions in the Women's World T20. So all is not lost if you're a Caribbean fan. Just to round up the conversation, the players that have been missing, and these were names that were brought up even before the series began. It was about who wasn't here and rather than who was. Chris Gayle saying he's not available for selection for this tour. He's going to be playing some T10 cricket as well as some T20 cricket around the world. Evan Lewis withdrew citing personal reasons, otherwise he was named in the original squad. Andre Russell missing it due to injury, so that's fair. That could have been one key player, Andre Russell, if he's at full strength. Sunil Narayan and Lendl Simmons were not picked in the T20I squad. That's another one to get your head around. And Dwayne Bravo announced his retirement from all international cricket in order to prolong his franchise career. Right, that's as exhaustive a chat as we can have.
Yeah, I mean, how do you then inspire younger players to come and play for your country?
Yeah.
If you can see your heroes sort of wanting to pick franchise cricket over playing for your country. It's a tough one, I understand.
Yes.
There's a lot of money involved here and every individual is different. My views are pretty clear.
Yes, Phil, that sigh demands a response.
I just not too sure about number one and the final statements there. So, but I think we leave it at that. I think before Bravo retired, I think you needed to see the selection team before he retired.
Okay, fair enough.
If you're not one of the top all-rounders in the world in T20 and you can't get selected for West Indies, it's difficult.
Right, like we said, it's like Ajit rightly points out, it's not as black and white as we all think of it. There are many other angles to it, the politics of it, the other issues that the West Indies Cricket Board has been faced with. The Players Association is a player in this as well, and there's plenty that we hope West Indies Cricket can resolve so we can get full strength in their West Indies series in future. Let's focus our attention on the game itself. In Chennai, it did look like it was typical Chennai with Brathwaite and Rohit Sharma all sweating. 75% humidity is what we expect.
It's a much nicer ground though. There's lots of gaps in the stands, so you get a little bit of breeze in the evening. But it is Chennai for you. It'll be extremely muggy. Conditions will be interesting with 3 spinners. You might see Washington Sundar open the bowling. He does that in T20 cricket. Again, another opportunity for someone like a Khalil to keep building on what he's been doing through that one-day series. So lots to look forward to. I'm just happy that Chahal's back in the 11.
Yeah, I mean, Kuldeep Yadav has been a thorn in their path. Dinesh Ranjan said that in the press conference too, Phil, that they've struggled to pick Kuldeep. They also struggled to adapt to how the Eden Gardens was playing. What approach would you like to see at Chennai now, which is not necessarily the highest scoring ground in the country, but we expect it to be dry and it to turn?
But the first thing you want to see is some sort of opening partnership that gives the rest of batsmen a chance to build on something. If you don't have a good 6 overs, then you're always struggling with the rest of the overs. The other thing is that I'd like to see O'Shane Thomas continue where he left off and keep building on that experience that he's had in the first 2.
And just thoughts on the choice of bowlers now. It's a second half conversation, but if Washington Sundar does take the new ball, Phil, you'd think a Nicholas Pooran should be the man coming out for the West Indies, a left-right combination. They sent Hetmeyer in the last game, presumably for the high target. Would you want to see Hetmeyer batting in the top 2?
No, I would still prefer to see Pooran, because I think as an opener he's a better one, and Hetmeyer has done very well at number 4. So I'd love to see him in that position.
It's a second half conversation, because it's first half conversation, because of course the West Indies will bat first. Any other boxes that India would like to take before the Australia T20s? Have you been impressed enough with Bhuvaneshwar Kumar on his comeback, who's still looking maybe not 100% of the bowler that he is?
Yeah, but I think the more cricket that he plays, just gets more confident coming back from an injury, whatever he's had, the back issues that he's had, the better he'll get. So it's good that he's got through the series. Krunal Pandya is another one.
Yes.
Playing as part of that 5 bowling unit. If he can keep consistently giving you his quota of overs, that again gives India options if they ever want to look at him for one-day cricket as well.
All right, many thanks Ajit Agarkar, and many thanks to Phil Simmons. We'll get their thoughts during the mid-innings show of ESPN Cricket for Matchday. Time to turn your attention to that third and final T20I of this India-West Indies series. Download the ESPN Cricket for mobile app for ball-by-ball commentary of it.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and leave your comments in the comment section below. Click on the bell icon for notifications.